They said the wounded commander was dangerous, that he had lost his mind, that anyone who stayed too close would get hurt. So when the new nurse walked into that silent house, carrying only her medical bag and her past regrets, no one expected her to last the night. Fear crept through every hallway. Anger waited behind every locked door. Then something went wrong. Very wrong. Because the man everyone feared wasn't a monster. He was a prisoner, and the nurse who was supposed to keep him quiet made a choice that changed everything. A choice that turned fear into truth, silence into justice, and despair into a moment of hope so powerful. It saved them both. The rain started before Mia Carter crossed the state line. Not a gentle drizzle. Not the kind that made the road shine pretty under headlights. This rain came down sideways, hammering the windshield of her aging Subaru like it had something personal against her. The GPS voice chimed. Turn left in 1 mile. Mia tightened her grip on the steering wheel. Her knuckles were already white. She hadn't taken a private duty nursing contract in over a year. Too many bad memories. Too many nights where money tempted people to look away from things they shouldn't. But this one had been different. Triple pay. Off-the-books bonuses. Low patient interaction, the recruiter had said. That alone should have made her laugh and hang up. Instead, she'd said yes. The road narrowed into something barely worthy of being called asphalt. Dark fir trees crowded in on both sides, their tops bending violently in the wind. No houses, no lights. Just forest and rain and the sound of her own breathing. Her phone buzzed. No signal. Of course. The GPS announced, "You have arrived." Mia slowed to a stop. Ahead of her rose iron gates set into stone pillars, half swallowed by ivy and moss. Beyond them, barely visible through the rain, stood a massive coastal estate. Gray stone, steep roof lines, windows dark as eye sockets. It looked less like a home and more like a place where secrets went to rot. Before Mia could reach for the intercom, the gates creaked open. No voice, no greeting, just permission. She drove through. The gravel driveway curved uphill, tires crunching loudly in the silence. As she parked near the main entrance, the front door swung open. A woman in scrubs burst out. She couldn't have been more than 23. Mascara streaked down her face, her hair coming loose from a tight bun. She clutched a designer handbag to her chest, like a life preserver. "I can't do this," the woman sobbed, nearly colliding with Mia. "He's not a man. He's an animal. He tried to—" She didn't finish the sentence. The woman sprinted down the steps toward a black sedan idling near the gate. The car peeled away seconds later, gravel spraying. Mia stood there, rain soaking into her jacket, watching the taillights disappear. So this was that kind of job. She slung her duffel bag over her shoulder and walked inside. The foyer smelled of antiseptic and old money. Marble floors, oil paintings, everything spotless in a way that felt rehearsed. A man waited near the staircase, short, immaculate suit, perfect beard, eyes that flicked over Mia like inventory. "Miss Carter," he said, extending a hand. "Dr. Grant Voss?" His handshake was cold and damp. "I assume the welcoming committee didn't discourage you." Mia glanced back at the door. "I worked ER in Detroit. A crying nurse doesn't rank." Voss smiled thinly. "Good. Our patient requires resilience." They walked as he spoke. "Commander Knox Hale," Voss said. "Former Navy SEAL, decorated classified assignments. He sustained severe injuries during a mission overseas." They stopped at the base of the stairs. "Burn trauma, shrapnel near the spine, traumatic brain injury," Voss continued. "His condition manifests as aggression, paranoia, Non-compliance. PTSD, Mia said flatly. Voss's eyes flickered. That's the word used publicly. And privately? Volatile, he said. Your role is not to rehabilitate him. It is to keep him alive and quiet. That phrase landed wrong. His guardian, Voss added, values discretion. Commander Hale is inconvenient to manage in public facilities. Mia thought of military hospitals, of oversight, of cameras. Who's the guardian? She asked. Voss hesitated just long enough. Senator Caldwell Rourke, his uncle. That explained the money. Voss handed her a key card. West Wing, top floor. You're the 4th nurse this month. Mia didn't miss the implication. They climbed the stairs. The air grew colder with every step. The West Wing corridor was dim, the windows sealed behind heavy blackout curtains. The place smelled metallic now, like blood under bleach. They stopped before double doors marked 4B. No knocking, Voss said quietly. He throws things. I've been stabbed with a pen, Mia replied. I'll manage. She swiped the card and stepped inside. Get out. The voice came from the shadows, deep, ragged, vibrating with rage. Mia closed the door behind her. The room was cavernous, curtains drawn tight. Medical equipment humming softly. In the center sat a reinforced wheelchair facing the window. I said get out, the man growled. Mia dropped her duffel bag. The thud echoed. I'm not housekeeping, she said clearly. And I'm not leaving. It's 1400 hours. Time for vitals. The chair rotated slowly. Knox Hale was massive, even seated. The left side of his face was a patchwork of scar tissue and grafted skin. An opaque lens covered one eye. The other, icy blue, locked onto her with terrifying clarity. He moved fast. A crystal tumbler flew at her head. Mia dropped to one knee, letting it shatter against the wall behind her. Glass rained down. She stood, brushed a shard from her sleeve, and met his gaze. That was Waterford, she said calmly. Overpriced and ugly. Want to try the lamp next? Or should we get your blood pressure? For the first time, Knox hesitated. What the hell are you? He rasped. Mia stepped closer. I'm the nurse who needs this paycheck, she said. So you can kill me, but the paperwork will be a nightmare for your uncle. She held out the cuff. Arm out. His jaw tightened. Slowly, reluctantly, he extended his arm. Mia wrapped the cuff around it. As the machine began to hum, she noticed something else. An IV pump. Locked. Running on a schedule far too aggressive for a stable patient. And every instinct she had screamed the same warning. This wasn't medicine. The first night taught Mia Carter one thing. Knox Hale wasn't dangerous all the time. Only when the fog rolled in. It came quietly. No alarms, no warnings. Just the soft, mechanical hum of the IV pump clicking awake at precisely 0200 hours. Mia lay half asleep in the narrow staff room down the hall when the sound reached her. Not loud, almost polite. But her body responded before her mind did. ER instincts didn't shut off just because the paycheck was private. She was on her feet in seconds. By the time she entered Knox's room, the pump was already delivering its dose. Clear liquid flowed steadily through the tubing, vanishing into his vein. Knox's breathing had changed. Slower, heavier, like someone sinking underwater. She checked his monitors, heart rate elevated, blood pressure dropping, not crashing, but drifting, pupils constricting. Knox, she said quietly, stepping closer. His good eye fluttered open. For a moment it was sharp, focused, then it dulled. His jaw slackened, words slurring as they pushed past his lips. Don't let it. Let what? Mia asked. His head rolled to the side. The moment passed. By morning, he remembered none of it. The second day was worse. Knox refused breakfast, shoving the tray away so hard it clattered against the wall. When Mia tried to clean the graft site along his ribs, he lashed out, not at her face, but blindly, like an animal trying to escape a snare. She didn't raise her voice. She didn't apologize. She used his momentum against him, pinning his arm safely, her knee braced against the wheelchair frame. "You're hurting yourself," she said through clenched teeth. "If this opens, you'll go septic. And if you go septic, they ship you to a hospital." His breathing slowed. "You want cameras?" she added. "Because that's how you get cameras." He stopped struggling. When she finished changing the dressing, her gloves were slick with sweat and blood. The grafts were inflamed, angrier than they should have been this far into healing. As she disposed of the biohazard bag, she noticed the IV pump again. Locked. Biometric access only. She checked the medication chart. Every 4 hours, continuous regimen. That wasn't pain management. That was chemical restraint. On the third night, the storm came in from the Pacific. Wind battered the estate like it was trying to rip the roof free. Rain lashed the windows, rattling them in their frames. Somewhere below, a door slammed. The power flickered, but the medical equipment never skipped a beat. Mia sat in the corner of Knox's room, charting by the glow of a desk lamp, watching the pump. When the dose finished, Knox sagged in his chair. Drool slipped from the corner of his mouth. Her chest tightened. She moved fast. "Knox," she whispered, checking his pupils. Pinpoint. "Hey, look at me." His eye rolled toward her, unfocused. "They moved the numbers," he murmured. "Bird went down. Jammer didn't." "Slow down," she said. "What numbers?" His fingers closed weakly around her wrist, stronger than she expected. "Don't let him give me the juice," he slurred. "Can't think when it's thick." The juice. Mia looked at the IV bag. It didn't smell like antibiotics. She knew that scent. This was faintly sweet. Chemical. Her pulse hammered. "I won't," she said without thinking. "I promise." That was the moment she crossed the line. At 0300, the house slept. The hallway guard, an ex-military brute named Kessler, snored softly in his chair, a sports magazine drooping over his chest. Mia moved barefoot. She slipped into Knox's room, closing the door behind her with surgical precision. The pump hummed, preparing its next cycle. Her hands didn't shake. She drew a syringe from her pocket. A sterile vial followed. She disconnected the tubing just long enough to extract 5 cubic centimeters of the liquid, then sealed it away, tucking the vial into the band of her sports bra. Evidence. Then she did the dangerous part. She adjusted the manual flow regulator, an emergency override buried in the line. Just enough to reduce the dose, not enough to trigger an alarm. Her heart pounded as she sat back in the chair. Waiting, she woke to the sound of exertion. A grunt. A sharp inhale. Mia bolted upright. Knox was out of the wheelchair. He was on the floor, hands braced against the edge of the oak desk, performing slow, brutal push-ups. His muscles trembled. Sweat poured down his scarred torso. But his movements were controlled, deliberate. Focused. He stopped when he noticed her watching. "You messed with the machine," he said. It wasn't a question. His eye was clear now. Cold. Alert. "I dialed it back," Mia said, standing her ground. "Why?" "Because you're not insane," she replied. "You're sedated." Silence filled the room. Then Knox reached beneath the mattress and pulled out a jagged shard of crystal, wrapped in cloth. I kept that, he said quietly. From the first day. A weapon. Insurance. You need to leave, he continued. Now. I'm not going anywhere, Mia said. You're being drugged to keep you quiet, and I want to know why. Knox laughed, short and bitter. They killed my team, he said. Then they killed my credibility. He dragged himself back into the wheelchair with visible effort. Without the drugs, the pain was back. Tremors rippled through his arms. We were sent on a retrieval, he said. Helmand Province. Supposedly American hardware. Mia listened. The crates weren't ours, Knox continued. Different alloys, different serial logic, and inside, he swallowed. Not weapons, product. Her stomach turned. Who? She asked. Knox met her gaze. My uncle's friends, he said. But the kind who wear flags like armor. Mia thought of her brother, of fentanyl, of a system that never got punished. She pulled the vial from her bra and held it up. Then we prove it, she said. Thunder cracked overhead. Knox stared at the vial like it was a lifeline and a death sentence. Once you do this, he said, there's no going back. Mia capped it firmly. I already crossed that bridge. Outside, the storm intensified, and somewhere in the house, a camera quietly adjusted its angle. The house watched them. Mia felt it the moment she stepped into the hallway the next morning. The faint pressure between her shoulder blades, the sense that something unseen had leaned closer. Knox noticed it too. Cameras, he murmured as she adjusted the blanket over his legs. They move. Mia didn't look up. How many? Enough, he said, and not where you'd expect. She logged his vitals anyway, her pen steady. The pump hadn't cycled since she dialed it back. No alarms, no consequences. Yet. By mid-morning, Dr. Grant Voss arrived. He entered with his usual polished calm, coat pressed, smile practiced. He didn't ask how Knox was feeling. He went straight to the IV pump. Anything unusual overnight? Voss asked. Mia met his eyes. He slept. Voss studied the screen. His brow creased for a fraction of a second. Barely there, but Mia caught it. He tapped the panel, re-entered his code. The flow rate increased. Knox's fingers twitched. Pain spikes during storms, Voss said mildly. We'll keep him comfortable. Mia forced a nod. When Voss left, Knox exhaled slowly. That's the leash. Mia said nothing. She was busy memorizing the route Voss took down the hall. The investigation began small, harmless. She started with the medication log, timestamps that didn't align with documented symptoms, dosages that climbed without explanation. She photographed pages with her phone, careful to angle away from the ceiling corners. She spoke to the housekeeper, a thin woman named Ruth who flinched at every sound. Does anyone else come up here at night? Mia asked casually while helping sort linens. Ruth hesitated. Sometimes, men I don't recognize. Security? Ruth shook her head. Different shoes. That was all she said. It was enough. Knox pieced together his memories in fragments, not dreams, anchors. They changed the coordinates, he said one afternoon, staring out at the gray ocean. Right before insertion. Who? My second, he replied. Or someone using his access. He described crates stamped with a contractor logo, serial codes that didn't match U.S. inventory, a radio jammer that failed at the worst possible moment. And then? Mia asked. Then the ambush, Knox said. Professional. Too clean. He clenched his jaw. I woke up in Germany weeks later. They told me I was confused. Mia thought of the vial in her locker. They made sure you stayed that way, she said. Knox nodded once. Until you. The words settled between them. Not gratitude, not romance. Recognition. The clue came after dusk. Mia was returning Knox's dinner tray when she noticed the smell. Leather, cigars, old cologne. It didn't belong in the West Wing. She followed it. Down a side corridor she hadn't seen before, past a door marked private. Her keycard didn't work, but the lock was old. Inside was a study. Dark wood, heavy desk, shelves lined with leather-bound books no one had opened in years. On the wall hung a framed campaign photo, Senator Caldwell Rourke, smiling beside an American flag. Behind the desk, a portrait of a woman. Mia stared at it. The frame sat slightly crooked. She adjusted it and felt cool air brush her fingers. A seam. She stepped back. There, Knox whispered from the doorway behind her. You shouldn't be out of bed, she hissed. I shouldn't be alive, he replied. Shall check behind it. Mia lifted the portrait. A safe. Her pulse spiked. Digital, Knox said. Rourke never trusted keys. Do you know the code? Knox closed his eye. Thought. Election night, he said. First win, November 4th, 98. Mia punched it in. The light blinked green. The door opened. Inside, cash, ledgers, a black USB drive. Proof. Then the lights snapped on. Step away from the safe. Dr. Voss stood in the doorway, a syringe in his hand. Behind him loomed the head of security, blocking the exit. Voss smiled, all warmth gone. I told you, he said softly. You should have just done your job. Mia's fingers tightened around the USB. Somewhere above them, a camera clicked. Step away from the safe. Dr. Grant Voss's voice carried no anger, no urgency, just certainty, the kind that came from believing the outcome was already decided. Mia froze, fingers still wrapped around the black USB drive. Behind Voss, the head of security filled the doorway like a wall. Broad shoulders, earpiece, one hand resting casually near his belt. Knox shifted behind Mia. The movement cost him. She heard the sharp intake of breath, the suppressed groan. Pain cut through him now that the fog was gone, and it showed, tremor in his arm, the way his weight leaned heavier on the chair. Voss noticed. You shouldn't be up, he said gently, as if speaking to a child. You'll tear something. Knox's eye burned. You already tried that. Voss sighed. This didn't have to be dramatic. He lifted the syringe. The liquid inside was clear, innocent-looking. Mia recognized the viscosity immediately. That's not medicine, she said. Voss smiled. It is if the chart says so. The guard took a step forward. Knox reacted before Mia could. He surged from the wheelchair, not fast, not clean, but violent with intent. His bad leg dragged, but his shoulder slammed into the guard's chest, knocking him off balance long enough for Mia to move. Run! Knox barked. Mia didn't. She swung the heavy desk drawer open instead, ramming it into Voss's wrist. The syringe clattered across the floor, skidding beneath the desk. Voss hissed in pain, stumbling back. The guard recovered fast. Too fast. He grabbed Knox by the collar and slammed him against the wall. Knox's head cracked against the wood paneling. Mia acted. She snatched the brass letter opener from the desk and drove it, not deep, not lethal, into the guard's thigh. He roared, releasing Knox. Alarms exploded to life. A low mechanical howl reverberated through the walls as steel shutters slammed down over the windows. Somewhere below, heavy locks engaged. Voss straightened, smoothing his coat. Lockdown, he said calmly. You've just made this much harder. Red lights pulsed in the ceiling. Mia's phone buzzed, then went dead. No signal. No escape. They ran. Knox leaned hard into Mia as they moved down the hall, every step leaving a smear of blood behind them. The West Wing erupted with sound. Boots shouted commands, radios crackling. Mia dragged him into a side stairwell and slammed the door shut. Up, Knox rasped. Fatal funnel. They climbed. At the top, the attic door was narrow, half hidden behind a linen closet. Mia shoved it open and hauled Knox inside, muscles screaming. The attic smelled like dust and old wood. Rain hammered the roof overhead, each impact sounding like gunfire. Mia barricaded the door with a heavy wardrobe just as something slammed into it from the other side. Breaching, Knox muttered. He slid down against a stack of old trunks, face ashen. You're bleeding, Mia said, dropping to her knees. Later, he replied. They'll come one at a time. That's our only advantage. She tore open her medical kit. No lidocaine, she said. Knox nodded once. Do it. She cut away the soaked bandage. The graft had split, angry, wet, pulsing. Mia threaded the needle with shaking hands. Talk, Knox said through clenched teeth. Keep me here. My brother, she said, piercing the skin. Knox grunted, knuckles whitening. Marine, came home broken. Pills turned into powder. I found him alone. She stitched fast. Clean. Efficient. They traced the batch, she continued. Military-grade distribution. That's why I took this job. Knox's breath evened despite the pain. You were hunting, he said. So were you, she replied, tying the knot. The door shook again. Wood splintered. Get ready, Knox said. The wardrobe tipped, crashing inward. Flashlights cut through the dust. A man stepped through, and Knox hurled a can of paint thinner at him. The mercenary flinched. Now! Knox shouted. Mia fired blindly. The shots went wide, but they bought seconds. Window, Knox said. Go! They scrambled to the dormer window at the far end. Wind and rain tore inside as Mia forced it open. A rope hung coiled nearby, old camping gear. Anchor it, Knox ordered. You first, Mia said. No, he snapped. You. She didn't argue. As Mia climbed out, a hand grabbed her ankle, Voss. His face was twisted now, civility gone. You ruined everything, he snarled, dragging her back. Mia kicked, connected with his face. He reeled, but didn't fall. He lunged again. Mia's hand closed around the open paint thinner can. She flung it. The liquid splashed across Voss's eyes. He screamed. Mia launched herself out the window. She slid down the rope, palms burning, landing hard on the terrace below. Knox followed. Clumsy, brutal, but alive. They limped into the rain-soaked garden as headlights tore through the storm. A black SUV smashed through the gate. A man stepped out under an umbrella. Rourke, Knox whispered. The senator shouted orders at the mercenaries pouring from the house. Mia met Knox's gaze. We can't run, she said. No, Knox agreed. So we finish it. They turned back toward the house. The house felt different when they re-entered it, hollowed. The storm raged outside. But inside there was only the hum of emergency power and the distant echo of boots. The grand foyer, once silent and polished, now looked like a staging ground. Mud smeared across marble. A shattered vase bled porcelain shards near the staircase. Mia kept low, Knox heavy against her shoulder. Library, he whispered. Ground floor. That's where the jammer is. They moved through service corridors, avoiding open spaces. Every corner was a gamble. Every breath sounded too loud. Knox was fading. The adrenaline that had carried him through the attic was burning out. leaving raw pain and weakness behind. His steps dragged. Blood dotted the floor behind them like breadcrumbs. Mia tightened her grip. "Stay with me." "I am," he said, though his voice wavered. "Just keep moving." They reached the library doors, 2 stories high, floor-to-ceiling shelves, a massive table at the center, and there, on the mahogany surface, a matte black box with blinking red lights. The jammer. Mia pulled out her phone. No signal. "Can you shut it down?" Knox asked. She shook her head. "Military grade. It's keyed." "Then smash it." Mia grabbed a heavy marble bust from a pedestal, some long-dead Roman general, and brought it down with everything she had. Plastic cracked. Sparks flew. The red lights died. Her phone vibrated. 1 bar. Mia exhaled sharply. "We have signal." "Then send," Knox said, turning to face the hallway. "I'll buy you time." She didn't argue. Mia opened her email drafts. Photos of the ledger, notes, the video testimony she'd recorded earlier while Knox was lucid. She added recipients without thinking. FBI tips, major outlets, anyone who couldn't quietly ignore it. Her thumb hovered over send. "Don't." The voice came from above. Mia froze. A figure stood on the upper balcony, descending slowly into the light. Tactical gear, suppressed rifle cradled like an extension of his body. A scar split his eyebrow. Knox's breath caught. "Ryder," he said. The man smiled faintly. "Hey, Commander." "You died," Knox said hoarsely. "Kandahar." Ryder shrugged. "I cashed out." Mia's stomach dropped. "You set it up," she whispered. "Business decision," Ryder replied. "Aegis pays better than patriotism." Knox lowered his stance, pain forgotten for a heartbeat. "You killed my team." "Collateral," Ryder said. "You were supposed to be collateral too." He glanced at Mia. "But we can still fix this. Blame the nurse. Say she drugged you. You go to a nice clinic. Everyone wins." "And her?" Knox asked. Ryder's finger tightened on the trigger. "She has an accident." Mia looked at Knox. He looked back. "Send it," he said. Ryder laughed softly. "You hit that button. I drop her before the upload hits 10%. The progress bar in Mia's mind felt painfully real. 1 bar of signal, 30 seconds at least. Knox made his choice. He lunged. The first shots hit him in the chest, knocking the air from his lungs, but his momentum carried him into Ryder. They crashed into a bookshelf, wood splintering. "Send!" Knox roared, blood spraying from his mouth. Mia slammed her thumb down, uploading 12%. On the floor, the fight was ugly. Ryder was stronger, faster. Knox was broken but relentless. He jammed his thumbs into Ryder's eyes. 34%, Ryder screamed, bucking him off, reaching for a knife. Mia grabbed the marble bust and ran. Ryder kicked out, catching her hard. She fell, the bust skidding away. Knox grappled Ryder again, knife inches from his throat. 67%. The phone chimed. Sent. Knox's eyes met Mia's. He reached for Ryder's vest and pulled the pin. "Cover!" Knox shouted. He shoved Ryder away and flipped the table, dragging Mia behind it as the library exploded in white light. Silence followed, then dust. Mia crawled from beneath the table, ears ringing. The library was ruined, books torn apart, smoke drifting through shattered walls. Knox lay beneath a fallen beam. Alive. Barely. Outside, helicopter blades thundered. FBI voices shouted. The cavalry had arrived. The silence after the explosion felt heavier than the noise had been. Mia tasted dust and copper as she crawled across the ruined library floor. Books lay shredded like fallen leaves. The smell of burned wiring hung thick in the air, sharp enough to sting her eyes. "Knox," she whispered. No answer. She scrambled toward the fallen beam. Knox lay pinned beneath it, chest barely rising. Blood soaked through his shirt in dark, spreading patches. His eye, still open, tracked her weakly. "You stayed," he murmured. "Don't talk," Mia said, already pulling at the beam. It didn't move. Her hands shook, adrenaline draining out of her like water through a cracked cup. She pressed her fingers to his neck. Thready pulse. Fast. Too fast. Hypovolemic shock. She ripped open her kit with trembling hands, slapping gauze over the worst of the wounds, pressing hard. "Stay with me," she said, louder now. "You don't get to quit." Outside, rotor wash thundered. Blue strobes flickered through the shattered walls. "FBI! Anyone inside? Identify yourself!" "I'm here," Mia shouted. "Critical trauma, multiple gunshot wounds." Boots pounded closer. Hands lifted the beam. Someone slid a backboard beneath Knox. Oxygen hissed. Commands flew fast and clipped. As they wheeled him away, Knox's hand searched blindly. Mia grabbed it. "I'm here," she said, leaning close. "I've got you." His grip tightened for a moment. Just enough. Then the drugs took him. Dawn broke pale and quiet over the Oregon coast. Mia sat alone on the steps of the estate, wrapped in a foil blanket, watching agents swarm the property. Evidence boxes stacked up. Cameras flashed as Senator Caldwell Rourke was led out in handcuffs, face ashen, umbrella discarded in the mud. Dr. Grant Voss followed not long after, wrists cuffed, eyes bandaged. He didn't look at Mia. Her phone buzzed non-stop. Unknown numbers, news alerts, emails flooding in. Senator linked to defense contractor drug scandal whistleblower nurse survives lockdown horror. She turned the phone face down. All she could think about was a hospital room she wasn't allowed to enter yet. They flew Knox south by medevac before noon. Mia followed by car. The hospital smelled like antiseptic and salt air. Bright. Clean. Nothing like the tomb of that house. The surgeon came out hours later, mask pulled down, eyes tired. "He's alive, mine," he said. "We lost a lot of blood. There's spinal involvement. The next 24 hours are critical." Mia nodded, numb. "Can I see him?" For 5 minutes. Knox lay motionless, machines breathing for him, tubes everywhere. The man who had once filled doorways now looked fragile, almost small. Mia pulled a chair close and sat. "I sent it," she told him softly. "Everything. They can't bury it this time." She hesitated. "You did what you said you would. You bought time." She swallowed hard. "So you have to live with that." The fallout hit fast. By evening, the story was everywhere. Aegis defense stocks tanked. Congressional offices went dark. Arrest warrants multiplied. Maya gave one statement, then another. She stuck to facts, dates, times, evidence. When they asked why she stayed, she answered honestly, "Because someone had to." She slept on a chair outside the ICU dreamless. Knox woke on the third day. Mia was there when it happened, half asleep, chin resting on her chest. She felt the shift before she saw it, the subtle change in the room's rhythm. His eye opened. "Mia," he rasped. She was on her feet instantly. "Hey, easy." He blinked slowly. Did we?" "Yes," she said, tears burning. "It's done." A ghost of a smile tugged at his mouth. "Good." 6 weeks later, the ocean smelled like jasmine. The rehabilitation center overlooked a stretch of California coastline, sunlight pouring through wide glass windows. Wind chimes clinked softly in the breeze. Knox stood at the railing, one hand gripping a cane, the other resting on cool metal. His left leg was braced. His movements were careful but deliberate. He was standing. Mia stepped onto the terrace, hair loose, wearing a dress instead of scrubs for the first time in months. "They reinstated your rank," she said, coming to stand beside him. "Retroactively." Knox shrugged. "It's paper." "They named a task force," she continued. "Families finally know the truth." He nodded once, eyes fixed on the horizon. "I owe you," he said quietly. Mia shook her head. "You don't." They stood in silence, the kind that didn't demand filling. "So," Knox said after a moment, "what happens now?" Mia smiled faintly. "I take a vacation. I paid off the house." He glanced at her, something lighter in his gaze than she'd ever seen. "Need a navigator?" She laughed softly. "Only if you promise not to throw crystal glasses." "Deal." The sun dipped lower. For the first time, the dark didn't feel like a threat. The hearing room smelled like polish and nerves. Mia sat at the witness table, hands folded, spine straight. The seal of the United States loomed behind the panel, flags, microphones, cameras stacked 3 deep. The quiet hum before the gavel fell felt louder than gunfire. Across the aisle, Knox waited in a wheelchair. He wore a dark suit instead of hospital cotton. The brace on his leg was hidden beneath the fabric, but the cane rested openly against his knee. He hadn't tried to hide the scars on his hands. He never did anymore. When the gavel struck, the room snapped to attention. "This committee will come to order." Mia breathed out slowly. She had told the story a dozen times already, to agents, to prosecutors, to internal affairs. But this was different. This wasn't about evidence alone. This was about belief. "Ms. Harper," a congresswoman began, eyes sharp but not unkind. "Why did you stay?" Mia didn't hesitate. "Because what I saw didn't match what I was told." Murmurs rippled through the room. She spoke plainly about the medication, the locked pump, the nights when Knox's mind vanished and came back like a tide pulling at the shore, about the study, the safe, the ledger. When they asked about the explosion, her voice faltered, but she kept going. "I didn't act out of heroism," she said. "I acted because leaving would have made me complicit." Silence followed. Then the questions turned harder, about protocol, about boundaries, about why a nurse thought she knew better than a physician. Mia met everyone head-on. "I wasn't treating a diagnosis," she said. "I was protecting a patient from harm." Across the room, Knox closed his eye. Knox's testimony came after lunch. He stood for it. The room shifted when he did. Chairs creaking, cameras adjusting, attention locking in. He gripped the cane, weight uneven, but his voice carried. They asked him about Kandahar, about the ambush, about the man he'd believed dead. "Ryder Kane was my second," Knox said. "He sold us out." A hush fell. They asked him about the drugs. They weren't for pain," he replied. "They were for silence." A senator leaned forward. "You're accusing a sitting member of Congress of treason." Knox didn't blink. "I'm stating facts." When they finished, the room exhaled. Outside, reporters surged, but Knox didn't stop. He rolled past the cameras, Mia beside him, their shoulders nearly touching. That night, they walked the perimeter of the rehabilitation center. The ocean was dark, the wind cool against their faces. Knox moved slower than he wanted, but he moved. "You did good in there," he said. "So did you." He stopped near the railing. "They offered me a position." Mia turned. "What kind?" "Advisory, oversight." Make sure this never happens again. She studied him. Do you want it? Knox looked out at the water. I don't know how to be anything else. Mia nodded. I got an offer too. He glanced at her, surprised. From where? A nonprofit, advocacy, medical oversight for veterans? A pause. That sounds like a calling, he said. Maybe, she replied. Or maybe it's just the next fight. They stood there, wind threading through silence. You don't owe anyone another war, Knox said quietly. Neither do you, Mia answered. He smiled, a real one, unguarded. Then maybe we choose. The vote came a week later. Charges advanced, immunities stripped, a task force formed with teeth. The headlines used words like reckoning and collapse. Mia read them from a cafe window, coffee cooling in her hands. Knox joined her moments later, breath steady, cane tapping lightly on tile. It passed, he said. She closed her eyes. Good. They sat in companionable quiet. So, Knox said at last, what do you want? Mia thought of hospital corridors and locked doors, of oceans and open air. I want a life that doesn't require me to prove I deserve it, she said. Knox nodded. Then let's not waste it. They clinked coffee cups like a pact. Outside, the world kept moving. For once, they moved with it. The ocean didn't ask them to explain anything. It simply existed, wide, patient, endlessly moving. Mia stood barefoot in the sand, the hem of her dress brushing her calves as the tide crept forward and retreated again. The air smelled of salt and sun-warmed kelp. Somewhere down the beach, a dog barked, joyful and unaware of history. Knox watched her from a few steps back. He no longer leaned on the cane the way he used to. It was still there, tucked into the crook of his arm, but more out of habit than need. His gait was uneven, but steady. Permanent, the doctors had said. Livable, Knox had answered. He stepped up beside her. You okay? He asked. Mia nodded. Yeah, just listening. To what? She smiled. Everything that isn't trying to hurt us. They stood in silence, the kind that felt earned. The official part had ended weeks ago. Charges filed, trials scheduled, headlines moved on. The world was very good at absorbing shock and continuing forward. Knox declined the advisory role. He surprised himself with that. He'd stared at the offer letter for a long time, at the language about duty and legacy and safeguarding systems. All noble, all familiar, all exhausting. I spent my whole life responding to alarms, he told Mia one night, folding the letter away. I don't want my future built on sirens. Instead, he chose something smaller. He began mentoring, not officially, no title, just sitting with men and women who had come home carrying invisible weight, listening more than speaking, teaching them how to breathe through the nights when memory came uninvited. Mia took the nonprofit role, but on her terms. She refused the polished offices and fundraising galas, chose fieldwork instead. Policy review, oversight, the unglamorous trenches where decisions quietly determined whether someone got help or got lost. They worked separately. They came home together. The house they rented sat on a bluff overlooking the water. It wasn't fancy. White siding, big windows, a porch that creaked underfoot. The first night there, the power went out during a storm. Mia froze. For a heartbeat, the past surged. Dark corridors, alarms, locked doors. Knox felt it instantly. Hey, he said softly, taking her hand. This is just weather. She laughed shakily. I know. They lit candles anyway. Sat on the floor, backs against the couch, listening to rain hammer harmlessly against glass. Knox reached for her hand again. Not to ground himself this time. but because he wanted to. She laced her fingers through his. No explosions followed. They talked about the scars. Not all at once. Sometimes it was a passing comment. Sometimes it was hours. Knox spoke about Ryder, not with rage, but with grief. About trusting someone who chose money over loyalty. About the strange relief of knowing it hadn't been a failure of command, just a failure of character. Mia talked about her brother, not as a cautionary tale, as a person. The way he laughed too loudly. The way he loved bad movies. The way he had believed help would come tomorrow. Tomorrow had never arrived. Maybe this is tomorrow, Knox said quietly once. Mia leaned into his shoulder. Maybe. The letter arrived in early spring, an invitation, not to testify, not to consult, to speak. A veterans center in a small coastal town was hosting a panel on medical ethics and institutional harm. They wanted both of them. Mia hesitated. Knox watched her read the email twice, then close her laptop. "You don't have to," he said. "I know." She exhaled. "But maybe I want to." They went. The room was modest. Folding chairs, coffee that tasted like burnt hope. Mia spoke first. She didn't dramatize, didn't soften. She talked about how systems fail quietly. About how harm often wears a friendly face and calls itself protocol. Knox followed. He didn't talk about heroism. He talked about fear. About what it costs to speak when the world has already decided who you are. When it was over, no one clapped right away. Then one person stood, then another. Afterward, a young man approached Knox, eyes red, hands shaking. "I thought I was crazy," he said. "Thank you." Knox nodded. "You're not." That night, they walked the beach again. The stars were sharp and endless overhead. Mia kicked at the sand. "Do you ever miss it?" Knox considered. "The clarity? Sometimes? The danger?" "No," he said immediately, then softer. "I miss knowing exactly who I was supposed to be." Mia stopped walking, turned to him. "And now?" He met her gaze. "Now I get to choose." She smiled, small, certain. "So do I." They stood there as the tide rolled in, touching their feet, retreating again. Nothing demanded they run, nothing chased them. What remained wasn't vengeance or victory. It was presence. It was choice. It was a life no longer defined by what had tried to destroy them. And for the first time, that was enough.